Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the McFarlane DC Multiverse Dawn of the DC Red Hood. This is Jason Todd in his newest look, and even though I'm not really a huge fan of his new look, you gotta have the current looks of all the characters. This is a look he started with using in Dawn of the DC, and is in his current miniseries, Red Hood the Hill. I want to give a huge shout out to my boy Corey for finding this for me at Walmart. I've been shopping at the Corey Mart. So let's take a look at the packaging. As you can see at the top, 22 moving parts, McFarlane Toys, ages 12 plus. DC Multiverse, Red Hood. Here he is in the package. We have a display stand, collector's card, crowbar, sword, and a total of 4 hands. One side of the package, Red Hood from Dawn of the DC. Other side, Red Hood. At the bottom, there's his barcode if that helps anybody. And at the back, here he is posed up from the comics. So with no further ado, let's open him up. Alright. Now that this figure out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. We have 4 hands, a sword, a crowbar, display stand, and collector's card. Before taking a look at all that, let's talk about and check out the figure. So this is Jason Todd as the Red Hood. Jason Todd was the second Robin, replacing Dick Grayson. The Joker eventually killed him, and many years later, they brought him back to life. He was a Red Hood, he was sort of against Batman at first, and then became a Batman ally. This is his newest costume. He's only been using it for less than a year in real time. McFarlane is pretty up to date on this release. I'm not the biggest fan of this costume. It's not horrible, but I really like the biker and helmet look. So let's take a closer look. He has an actual hood on, appropriate. It's a red hood. I can see some texture on there. It does seem to be fully connected to his jacket. He's got a domino mask, a little red thing covering his mouth. Black shirt, looks like, I guess, the Batman logo there. Can't quite see. The jacket doesn't come back. It's glued on. Some wrap around his arms. Double jointed elbows. Double jointed knees. The legs and arms look kind of familiar. Maybe Dark Detective. We'll check that out shortly. It looks like he has a place to stow both those weapons. Kind of cool. I mean, it looks good, but I just really liked his biker look. And a closer look at his face and head sculpt. I have a light shine on him, so excuse the glare. He has red eyes, domino mask, and that red sort of mask covering up his mouth. It doesn't look bad. And while we're on the subject of his face, his hood. Now it's made of a soft goods material. You can move his head around. If you have it looking straight ahead, it kind of covers up a lot of his face. I was kind of curious what's going on underneath there, so let's sort of pull the hood back, and I'm trying to be careful. I don't want to rip it at all here. Just want to see his head, which actually looks pretty cool. Could see someone putting that to some good use without the hood. Mine's got a couple of scratches on his forehead. That's pretty annoying. Another thing I wanted to comment on was his hood. Now, the hood, I wish it was sort of cut a little bit higher up, because if you have him looking straight ahead, you can barely see his face, and it almost forces you to kind of have him looking down, and that just doesn't look right, sort of looking downward. And I just wish it was just sort of rotated up just a tad more, because this looks better to me, but this makes more sense. And then here's a figure, broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. Now let's check out his accessories, starting off with the boring stuff. Here's his display stand, typical McFarlane display stand we've seen a bunch of times before. Here's his collector's card. As you can see, it's an image of Red Hood in this modern outfit. Red Hood from Dawn of the DC. On the back side there is a description. If you want to read that, pause now. Now let's check out his hands. He has a total of 4 of them, 2 right hands and 2 left hands. One thing I want to add, the hands are a little bit different than usual. Almost on every McFarlane figure, the peg is connected to the arm, but on the Red Hoods here, the peg is connected to the hands. Here he is with his first pair of hands. These are his fists. And then with his second pair of hands, this is a pair of gripping hands with trigger fingers for the guns that he does not come with. Now for his weapons. He has a sword and a crowbar. The sword here is a little bit bent from the packaging. That's an easy fix with some hot water or blow dryer. Regular blade. Handle, a little bit of sculpt. And then we have the crowbar, the signature weapon of Red Hood. That is what Joker used to beat him to death right before he killed him, and a lot of the time Red Hood used it to beat Joker in the modern day and age. And like I said, Just a little bit of heat. Fix the sword right up. Here's a look at Red Hood holding that sword. And then here he is, holding that crowbar. Here's Jason holstering those weapons on his back. And I can't help but think that these little slots here were not meant for these weapons, but something else. So I wanted to check out the reuse on this Red Hood. And I got a lot of vibes of the Dark Detective Batman, but I don't believe a single part is reused. And I feel like they could have easily reused some of it. The sleeves, very similar. This guy's wrapper on his arms, and he is too, although underneath the gauntlets. The pants are very similar. Of course, he'll need different boots. But nice job, Todd. I don't think there's any reuse. I think it's a brand new body. I could be wrong. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at the figure and his accessories, let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his hood, standing about 7.4 inches tall, which can translate to just under 19 centimeters. Now that's the top of his hood. I'd say the top of his head is probably about 7.2 inches tall. And for his articulation, starting with his head is on a ball joint. It can go up and down, although it's kind of difficult with the hood there. It can rotate side to side. It can really do everything a typical McFarlane figure would do, although it's very obstructed. Shoulders on a ball joint, goes out about 90 degrees. Up, down, around. He does not appear to have the typical butterfly rings because this jacket covers up that gap. Bicep cut. Double jointed elbows. They don't look that good when like this, that's for sure. It's weird on the elbow here. It's almost like it's supposed to be part of the wrap, those lines. It just looks odd, like they didn't paint it far enough up. His wrist can rotate, and it's hinged. Got a ball joint in his torso. Rotate around, forward and back. Another one in his waist. Rotate around, forward and back. Between the two, pretty good range of motion. Legs complete as splits. McFarlane style hip joints. Rotation at the top is pretty much non-existent, but he's got a thigh cut, which is very unusual for these figures. Double jointed knees. And his ankle. Forward and back. Rotate. Tilt rock. And toe articulation. Here's a look at Jason Todd, just chilling outside of Joker's hideout. He's waiting for him. He sees a Joker walking up. This is his opportunity to get some revenge. He starts to walk toward the Joker, slowly, weapons in hand. Jason approaches the Joker, about to beat him with a crowbar. Joker is holding his hand up, saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, hold on a second." Jason starts to beat the Joker to a bloody pulp with the crowbar. After a few minutes, Joker is covered in blood, but he's just laughing maniacally. There is nothing Jason Todd can do to get his revenge against the Joker. Now let's check him out. Next to some other action figures, starting off with some other Red Hood and Jason Todd figures. Here's the Dawn of the DC Red Hood, next to the New 52 Red Hood. This is still my favorite of all the different McFarlane DC Multiverse Red Hood figures they've done so far, and it's their first one. This is the traditional biker look from under the Red Hood, although this is a little bit later when he has a bat symbol on his chest. I would love if they would make one from under the Red Hood before he was part of the Bat family. And here he is, next to the three Jokers Red Hood. Next, with the Gotham Knights Red Hood. And now, with the Arkham Knight Red Hood. Here are all the different McFarlane DC Multiverse Jason Todd as Red Hood figures they've made so far. Total of 10 of them. A lot of variants. A lot of solid releases here. And here he is, next to some custom McFarlane Red Hood figures, mostly from part swapping. This first one here is my favorite version. And here he is, next to all of my DC Direct Jason Todd figures. Here he is, next to an Extreme Toys third-party Red Hood. Then, next to the amazing Yamaguchi Red Hood. And now, next to a couple of Mattel Jason Todd as Red Hood figures. Here he is, next to a Mafex Jason Todd as Hush figure. Here he is, next to a custom Red Hood I made a long time ago, before any company gave us a Red Hood offering. Here he is, next to a couple of Jason Todd in civilian attire customs, a 7-inch scale McFarlane on the left, and a DC Direct 6-inch scale animated or Hasbro Legends style on the right. And while technically the Arkham Knight is Jason Todd in the video game, in the comics the Arkham Knight is a completely different character, and so in my action figure world, these are not Jason Todd. Here's Jason Todd, next to several different Joker as Red Hood figures. The Joker was Red Hood before he became the Joker, and Jason Todd took that Denny's Red Hood to sort of mock the Joker. And finally, here he is, next to the Red Hood gang. This is a DC Direct figure. I believe in the New 52, they retconned the Joker's origin to being the leader of the Red Hood gang, but I could be wrong. In my action figure world, it's just another gang, unrelated to the Joker per se. Red Hood and a bunch of his henchmen. Here are the 4 Robins: Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, and Damian Wayne, in the most recent costumes that McFarlane has given us figures of. And here would be my favorite figures of each of them that McFarlane has made. Here's this Red Hood, next to several different McFarlane DC Multiverse Batman figures. You can see he's maybe just a hair taller if you look at the shoulders than the Nightfall Batman and Rebirth. Maybe a hair shorter than the Detective Comics on the far right. And considerably shorter than the Hush Batman, so that's the one he scales up the best with. Now let's check him out. Next to some other recently released McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here he is, next to the Rebirth Cyborg. Here's Red Hood, next to most recent Platinum Wave, The Question, and Shining Knight. I still need to track down Effigy. And here he is, next to most recent Page Puncher Wave, Damian Wayne Robin, and Deathstroke. There are Platinum Chase variants of both these figures, and I'm looking for 2 of each one. If anybody out there has a lead on where I'm able to get one for a reasonable price, or can possibly help me out, please drop me a line in the comments below. It is much appreciated. I believe these are hitting Walmarts in the US right now. Then, next to the McFarlane Toy Store exclusive Jonah Hex. And now, with the Michael Go Alfred that came with the Batman Forever Batmobile, and the GameStop exclusive Frostbite Deathstroke. Here's Red Hood, next to the 7th wave of McFarlane Collector's Edition figures. We have the battle-damaged Dark Knight Returns Batman, the New 52 Huntress, a couple Green Lantern Corps members, Abin Sur, and Tomar Ray. There are Platinum Chase variants of all 3 of these figures, and I'm looking for 2 of each one. And here he is, next to the Batman Forever wave, Collective Build and Nightmare Bat. Then, with the previous Platinum Chase wave, Bullseye Batman, Hugo Strange's Batman, Batman Begins Lucius Fox, and the Flash movie Batfleck. And now, with the most recent Batman wave, both the regular and Platinum Chase variants of the Batman Reborn Dick Grayson Batman, the Adam West Batman, and the world's finest Fusion Batman Superman. And finally, with the 6th wave of Collector's Edition figures, Red Hood, Clock King, Ragman, and Agent Liberty. Each of these 4 figures has Platinum Chase variants, and I'm still looking for 1 more Red Hood, 2 Clock Kings, and 1 more Ragman. Now let's check them out. Next to some action figures from different various companies, so we can see how he fits in, both scale and style-wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a McFarlane toy, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect, and work way smaller. But first, let's check him out with some of his McFarlane Toys brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from McFarlane Toys, all 7-inch scale, and now with some Jakks Pacific Wrestling figures and some Diamond Select toys. Here's the Red Hood, next to a pack of ramen noodles. And now, with some DC Direct and NECA figures. Then, with both some Mattel and Jazzwares wrestling figures. And now, with some Mezco and Mattel DC figures. Next, with some Mafex and Hasbro Marvel Legends. And finally, with some SH Figure Arts and Jazzwares Fortnite figures. So overall, it's a nice Red Hood figure. I'm not really a fan of his new look. I mean, the look itself is not bad, but just compared to his previous look that I like better, it feels like a downgrade. My biggest complaint about the figure would be the hood itself. I wish it was a little more open so he could sort of see his face better. But, I mean, they're trying to be accurate to the source material. It just makes the head really hard to turn around. And it makes it look kind of bad when he's looking straight ahead. He also has to look down, and that is, a negative factor. Beyond that, the figure looks like a very good representation of the comic. I'm also a little confused what's going on with the back of his elbow. It seems like maybe they didn't paint the wrap all the way. It just looks really weird. His accessories are fine. The signature crowbar for Red Hood. Sculpt paint job, pretty good for the most part. Mine has that little ding on the forehead, which is really noticeable when you look close. Articulation, it's also pretty good. If I were to rate this guy, I'm not going to let my thoughts on the costume hold back the rating of the figure, because those are different questions. McFarlane didn't design the costume. They just made a figure of it based off the comics. I think he's worth a 7 out of 10. I'm not super excited, because I'm still going to use my New 52 Red Hood as my main one, but it is nice to have his most modern look. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say in the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.